Well, welcome, Derbyites. We are here to review the second season, or the sequel, to Stranger Things, and a belated Happy Halloween. We've decided to get in costume. Charlie Bright and Rob Licuria. How are we going, gentlemen?
I'm going really well.
This isn't another Twin Peaks podcast?
No.
No.
Damn it. Yeah, sorry. That was last time. Yeah, well, I'm good. We're just coming off watching a really excellent season 2 of Stranger Things, man, and I am totally pumped to talk about it.
Let's first break down what our initial reactions were to the season. Charlie, what did you think of Stranger Things 2?
I thought it was just as good as the first one. I mean, it had the show came out of nowhere last year, and it had a lot to live up to, and I thought it handled. I thought it was great. It was invigorating. There were new characters, but it never lost that sense of magic from the old one. And what I also loved is that, specifically the new character of Max, I was afraid that it was going to be like this whole thing of where does she come from? It's going to be this huge mystery that's going to take up a whole section of plot. But it never did. They just allowed her to come into the fold, and it worked. I thought it was magnificent.
Mm-hmm. Rob, what did you think?
Yeah, I agree. When you think about season 1, you're like, oh well, because it was such a surprise and it was so nostalgic that many of us just took to it immediately and loved it and had to champion it, and then it became this big sensation. This season had a lot to live up to, as Charlie just said, and I think that actually hit the mark. I'm really surprised. I think the beginning was a little slow. It took a little bit of time to get into it and to try to readjust to the storyline and so forth. But by the end, there was about 2 or 3 episodes in particular that were really pretty scary. It was kind of getting into horror more so this season than last season. And by the end, I was just applauding. But they did it. It was a very, very entertaining season of television, and I really am really excited about it.
I actually liked the slow start to the season. I think it gave some really nice character moments and some fun moments with them all rocking up to school in the Ghostbusters gear, and just some more opportunities for that 80s nostalgia, and just some fun character developments that made the rest of the season, when it got more dramatic, more intense, exciting. And I sort of enjoyed that, and think it added the stakes to later in the season well too. So I liked the slower start to the season. I liked where they brought it to. And I was someone who was going into this season of Stranger Things feeling like it might be a disappointment. I think often these shows that deal with sort of monsters and other dimensions, sci-fi, supernatural sort of elements, whatever you want to call them, can get a little bit weak in their second season. They sort of did a really good first knock, and then they go back and it's just not as good, or they're trying to something. But I think this season, as Charlie said, was just as good as the first. I think it might have even, for sort of character moments and plot, being better than season 1. And I think the one thing I'd say maybe season 1 has over it is the disappearance or the vanishing of Will Byers. I think added some nice arc or mystery for the whole season. Yeah. But aside from that, I think season 2 may have been better than season 1.
Big call. That's a big.
What was really cool about this season also was that, Will was such a focus of the first season, but we didn't see that much of him because he was gone for most of it. It was all about finding him. And so now we actually get to establish more of his dynamic as part of the group, which was really fun to see, and to see that that it worked really well within that whole setup that they had.
Yeah, that's true. And I kept thinking to myself, what more can this child endure? Seriously, man, can season 3 not be Will in pain or being tortured? Because I felt so sorry for the kid. But it's really good acting from him, by the way, by Noshath. And there were elements of the season that didn't work for me, I must admit. So I don't think it was a masterpiece. And we'll probably get into that later. But overall, just as an overall, once it was done and dusted, I started watching Beyond Stranger Things immediately because I just wanted to stay in that world. I didn't want to leave it.
Yeah. No, it was really good. And let's talk. We're an awards site here at Gold Derby. We cover the Golden Globes, the Screen Actors Guild, the Primetime Emmy Awards. We cover them all. And Stranger Things did very well last year. It got a whopping 18 nominations at the Emmys. It won the Screen Actors Guild for Ensemble. It won a whole bunch of those Emmys it was nominated for as well. Fell a bit short of Drama Series. Wasn't able to take out that top award that it went into the night for the front runners of. But I think, Charlie, you brought up a good candidate to sort of launch our awards discussion who might be, and that's Noah Schnapp, who played Will. This season. We barely saw any of him in season 1. Season 2, he was really a force to be reckoned with. And I've had people mentioning to me that he's sort of been the MVP of the season. Sarah Paulson tweeted, I think last week, that she thinks he should get all the award nominations, all the award wins. Was he the standout for you this season, Charlie?
Absolutely. He absolutely was. But I also think that, he was very, very good on his own. I thought you believe every moment of trauma that he is carrying. You believe the trauma that he's carrying from all that he went through in season 1, and now everything that he's going through in season 2. He carries it beautifully. But I also think even more than just him, I got to say, just the ensemble worked so well this year. I think even more than last year, because we got to see more of these characters interacting with each other rather than all in their own sort of thing. And I think that, they're going to be a really solid contender to win the Screen Actors Guild Award for Ensemble again this year. Because I think they were just, and even the newcomers like Sean Astin and Paul Reiser of all people. Yeah. Paul Reiser's been on a bit of a really interesting career streak recently, because he was in the Oscar-winning movie Whiplash, and now here he is in Stranger Things, and talk about relics of the 80s coming back to haunt us. I thought the whole cast was just fantastic.
Yeah, I thought I really took to Gaten Matarazzo as Dustin. I thought he had more to do this season and was the comic relief, and he was just wonderful, especially in the finale at the snowball. Like, oh man, I can't wait to hopefully interview the kid because he was fantastic. Noah Schnapp, is it Schnapp? I don't even know how to say his name. But Schnapp. We're going to be hearing a lot more about him, and I suspect he probably will be in the awards conversation along with Millie Bobby Brown. I think she did a beautiful job this season as well as 11. And for me, of the non-kids, because all the kids are great, because the other two in the little group of 4 were great as well. But David Harbour just killed it again. Like, he really, I think he is the anchor for the whole show. When he talks about his daughter that's passed away, and when he bonds with 11, his character, over that, it really gets me. I just thought he was wonderful, and I hope he gets nominated again at the Emmys and maybe hopefully at the Golden Globes in a couple of months.
Yeah, David Harbour's fantastic on the show, and I really think that that particularly that final episode was a great showcase for him. He's got the big scene shouting at Mike at the beginning, which ends in him giving Mike a hug. He then has the beautiful scene, maybe my favorite scene of the season, with Elle in the car talking to her about his daughter. Then we've got a fun, intense action scene on the lift, shooting demogorgons. And then he's got a nice sort of understated scene with Winona Ryder at the car at the end. So just four really nice, varied scenes on that final episode alone, and the rest of the season he's got some great stuff too. So David Harbour, a real standout for me. Noah Schnapp probably gives the most dynamic performance of anyone of that season. And I guess it's hard to get nominated for a Screen Actor Guild because they don't have supporting races. It's hard to get nominated for Golden Globe nominations because they don't split up the comedy drama. Like when you're a supporting actor, this is the time of the season where it's really tough for you. And sometimes you look for the Emmys to be a breakout. Millie Bob Brown was able to break through for the Screen Actors Guild last year. Can Noah Schnaps do it this year, or is he not quite at the level that Millie Bob Brown was last year?
It's tough. It's really tough. I think he probably can. It's typical of the Hollywood Foreign Press to kind of go there, and they're going to try to get attention. And I think by nominating Millie Bobby Brown before they did that, and they could probably, if there's enough noise about Noah, they'll probably do it. In fact, I think both of them could make it in. Actually, that category could just be full of Handmaid's Tale people and Stranger Things people. But yeah, wouldn't that be cool? Because last season, no one was really talking about Noah. He was barely in it. He was really an afterthought. And obviously, the Duffer Brothers have given him much more of a really central role, and he really, really, really delivered it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I think Noah has a very good shot at the Globes. Screen Actors Guild. It will be a pleasant surprise if he gets in, because it's such a tough field to get in because there's only 5 slots. That's all I got on that one.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and I wonder if he will unfairly struggle just being a less iconic character than 11 was last year. And it was really Millie Bobby Brown and Winona Ryder, the only 2 females on that show last year for in sort of the supporting contention. Natalie Dye, I don't want to shortchange her. She was fantastic in season 1 and season 2 of the show. But there's a lot of supporting guys on Stranger Things. So more people. There's the 4 sort of kids. There's David Harbour, and now it's Paul Reiser and Sean Astin. That's like 7 people. So it's a little bit trickier for the guys on that show than the girls to get nominated in terms of competing against people on your own show. Yeah. Do we think just looking a bit ahead with Emmys, I think that final of the series would be a great writing, directing nominee.
100%.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that is just so good on so many levels.
Yeah. And I would also look to, I don't know if it's chapter 3 or 4 or something, the Dig episode, Dig Dug, and the one after it were both directed by Andrew Stanton.
Right.
From
Oscar
Wall-E. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him getting a nomination.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is Stranger Things will perform just as well at the Emmys next year that it did in its first season. I think it will do very well with the Golden Globes and SAGs. There's going to be no drop off. It always occurs to me when I'm watching this second season. I'm sure you guys are exactly the same. I'm always thinking, okay, where are we at in how it compares to season 1? And then also, will this drop off, or will it just continue to be a really strong performer? And I totally think the latter. I don't think there's going to be a doubt that Stranger Things will remain. The nostalgia is still there, but it's not about that anymore. It's completely on its own merits. It was just so well done and so entertaining. I can't imagine the Emmys are denying it again.
The only issue is it is so far away.
I know.
That is keeping up the momentum. It was able to last year.
Well, that's not going to hurt Game of Thrones either, so...
Game of Thrones will have new episodes airing, right, though, before then? Like,
I don't think so.
Before the Emmys air?
I'm not sure. We have to probably check that because that's always a factor.
And we don't know when Stranger Things 3 is getting dropped by Netflix, but HBO and Netflix might need to. But Game of Thrones is it's one best drama series that's past 2 outings. That one won't be getting forgotten. And Stranger Things will definitely get nominated in drama series next year with such a strong second season too, and with other contenders. Maybe will not be returning next year as well. Like, there's at least a House of Cards slot open. So, what do we think? Let's go through the storylines.
Yeah.
For for the past season. Is there one, Rob, you would like? Let's talk about Elle.
Okay.
You are obviously a favorite character of yours, Rob. 11.
Yeah, I have an almost 10-year-old daughter, obviously, as many people know. So, and Juliet and I watched some of Stranger Things season 2 together. Although by the time it got to about episode 4, it was time for Juliet to stop watching because it got a little too scary. But we bonded over 11. It's her favorite character, and he's my favorite character too. And I think Millie Bobby Brown is such a wonderful actress. Does a beautiful job of that. And I loved her storyline, but I must admit the standalone episode with her and 8 didn't quite work for me. It just didn't. It took me out of Hawkins. It just dragged on a bit too much. But I still really loved her performance, and I loved getting more information about her backstory and her mama and papa. And but I loved the storyline. But what really got me was the last 2 episodes when she had when she reunited with Mike. That last scene in the house, I had to watch it like twice. I had to rewind it and watch it again because it was so perfect. And then when she saves the day in the finale, she's levitating with her 2 hands out, and she closes the gate, and then she turns up the snowball, and Mike and 11 kiss. I just thought it was perfect. I could not have imagined a better episode than that finale. It really just tied everything together so wonderfully.
Yeah. It resonates for parents with 11-year-old daughters and people that are pet owners who always know you need to close the gate to stop the dogs from getting out.
Yeah.
Charlie, what do you think about 11's journey this season?
Oh, it was spectacular because you always debate what you're going to do with these types of characters, for a second go around. And I think that the Duffer Brothers handled it perfectly. And even though, I understand what Rob said. From what I've been reading on the internet, that episode where 11 goes to Chicago, it didn't work for a lot of people that I saw there. But and I can understand that, but I didn't mind it. And I don't think, once it got back to Hawkins, everything just went right back in motion. So it didn't take away too much for me. And I thought we got to see some real growth in her character now that she actually got dialogue for the first half of the season as opposed to last year. So I think that it was really fun. It was heartwarming. It was heartwarming to watch her get to try to experience to be a kid. Yeah, and I think that's sometimes forgotten with these characters of the age that they're at. They're 12, 13, and because for some reason going into the season I thought they were younger than that. But they're older than that, and they're entering adolescence, and so there's a whole series of things that's going on in conjunction with that.
Yeah, and I think that the episode 7 where she goes and meets up with 8, the sister episode, was probably their weakest episode of Stranger Things. That's probably my least favorite if I was ranking them all. That being said, after watching the last 2 episodes, I feel a little bit better about it. I think it laid the groundwork well for the conversation with Hopper in the car and some other things. So I could see where they were going with it. There were elements of it that worked and didn't. Part of me wonders whether it would have been better just being half an episode. There's something else going on in Hawkins while she's over there. Is maybe too much of a departure. But it's good to try things new. And in hindsight, what I look back on it as, last year was an 8-episode season. Episode season plus what they didn't take away an episode to go off with her in Chicago. But yeah, it didn't totally work for me, that episode either. But I minded it less after episode 9 than I minded it after episode 7, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Let's talk about who do you want to talk about next, guys? What's the next sort of storyline?
Justice for Muse. Justice for Muse, the kitty cat.
The kitty cat.
But
yes.
Dart was hungry and Dart had to eat. So Dart became one of my favorite characters, so to speak, because he was kind of like the demagogue on their side, protecting them a little, and that was cool. But yes, the Muse had to go. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, not great. But yeah, so we had Dustin find Muse. No, not find Muse. Find Dart, who killed Muse. He sort of lied to the group, breaking their code. Lucas sort of went against the code of the party too by talking to Max, telling her all the hot goss from season 1 of Stranger Things. Who do we think broke the rules the most out of Lucas and Dustin? Who really who should have got excommunicated from the party?
Before the last 2 episodes, I would have said Dustin, hands down. But when you saw how many more of those creatures there were, it ended up not being that much of a. It wasn't like, it was the whole thing that set it in motion. It was more just like a drop in the bucket compared to everything else. So I think they both probably did equally. Maybe Dustin a little more, but as they said in that episode, they called it even. They both did it. So yeah,
fair enough. Rob,
I agree. I think Lucas telling Max about the story, I thought that was okay, and people had to let. I think they had to let it go because she needed to understand what she was getting herself into. The poor thing, and she had a really awful brother to deal with as well, who got his comeuppance in the finale, really beautifully. Played by an Aussie, by the way. I thought did a great job. So I don't know. I think Dustin, he could do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. He was wonderful, and I totally understood why he took Dart under his wing, so to speak, and it ended up being kind of a good thing. So I'm cool. I'm cool with both.
Yeah, I feel like Lucas, it's sort of, you can't just go around telling everyone your group secrets, particularly when it involves like one of your best mates' relationship history. Like, I'm just going to tell you all about like this lost love of one of my best friends who's quite secretive about it. But I feel like Mike was also being a bit of a jerk to Max as well, so I didn't really mind as much. Like, I feel like the party wasn't having the discussion it needed to about Max joining the group.
Can I also say I also loved Elle's bit of jealousy when she saw Max and Mike in the gym. I loved that little part. It's like we get to see it's one of those things that just really made me love her character more, because we see, even though she is this person capable of supernatural abilities, she's still a kid and she's still a human being above all. So yes, one of those things is going to be jealousy. Yeah, and I just love how she just pulls her. What does she do? She pulls the skateboard out from under her or something. And I just thought that was great. I was laughing so hard when that happened.
Yeah, and I was like, no, like, you don't know how much of a dick Mike's been to Max. Like, there's the one sort of semi-nice thing he's done to her, or like interaction he's had with her for the past 5 episodes, and you have to see it.
I know. It's so funny.
Okay, let's move around. What do we think about? Well, Rob, you are the father to a young girl. How much of your parenting revolves around waffles, evening dinners, and soap operas?
Well, funny you should say that, but quite a lot. In a different way. I even brought a waffle with me today.
Oh yeah.
I thought I'd go all out. To be honest, I think when I see Winona Ryder and David Harbour playing these characters and in peril, it actually very much affects me. Obviously, because I have kids, so I can only assume that's why it affects me emotionally. But I'm sure if I didn't have kids, I'm sure I'd still be affected. I'm sure you guys are. But Winona Ryder didn't have a lot to do this season. But when she was kind of, standing over Will and trying to help him, and she's worried about it and she's screaming, carrying on, that is effective. But David Harbour has this, he just kind of took it to the next level once again. Because in the finale of the first season, when we have the flashbacks to his daughter dying of cancer, they really, really got me, those scenes. This season, he didn't necessarily have that visceral stuff, but he still was able to talk about the loss that he is dealing with. And now the bond that he has with this other girl that he is looking after. And it was just like, it just gave the show so much more depth. It could have just been a romp, a fun sci-fi romp, and it wasn't. It was much, much more than that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there was a lovely moment someone pointed out to me that from his daughter, David Harbour had been wearing this blue bracelet that apparently Elle was wearing in the snowball, which is a nice little, nice little touch. So really strong. And he taught her a word every day too. It was like, here's our word for the word for today is.
Yeah.
Today's Day in the Cabin is sponsored by the letter L and the number 2. L, so, or maybe the number 11. So let's quickly, I know you have to go in a couple minutes, Rob, so let's quickly do a bit of a roundup of some of the other loose ends and storylines. What did you...
I also got to say one of my other favorite characters is Bob Newby. Played by Sean Astin.
Talk about Bob.
Awesome.
He was so great and such a wonderful addition to this. And, I really love that, he was trying and he was actually succeeding and, getting through to the kids, to Jonathan and Will. I thought, and he was great. And, oh God, it was so heartbreaking what happened to him. Just so utterly heartbreaking. And I probably would have been more affected by it had it not been spoiled for me by the title of an article on the Daily Beast. That's right, Daily Beast, I'm coming for you.
That sucks.
It was just so wonderful. It was just so heartbreaking, but he just brought so much warmth to it.
Yeah. I think that that was probably though one of the issues I had with the last 2 episodes, and I thought the last 2 episodes were near perfection, and this was probably the issue. I felt like the Bob death was too obvious and too convenient for the story.
Yeah.
That's the one, I feel like, I don't even know, they zoomed in on him leaving the handgun behind, and at that point I go, well, he's dying. There's no reason they would, zoom in on that. But I thought the weird thing, secondly, was I'm not even sure if he had that gun, whether it would make any difference. I don't know why that was such an important information to give us the gun behind.
Well, I think it was to sort of mentally prepare us, but also when he got out of there, I think that also, if you didn't know what was going to happen, you were just sort of like, oh, okay, he's out of there, he's safe, but then the one comes from the side and gets him, and then you're like, oh crap, that happened.
Yeah,
I'm not
and
sure.
I also love how when they were panning over at the end, in the finale, when they're in as Will's getting ready for the snowball. They pan across they see his other drawings, and you see the drawing of Super Bob, which I thought was really,
I like that. This show's really good. This show's really good, and I like it. It's similar, it reminds me of Breaking Bad in a sense, where they're really good just putting those little touches.
Yeah.
Those little things that are just, make it, such a great show. And they also, Breaking Bad, don't take themselves too seriously, so they're able to have those lighter, fun moments as well. I think it's, tonally and just the little finer details, it's probably one of the best shows we've seen since Breaking Bad, which is saying something. What do you think? Better Call Saul does it well too, but that's a Breaking Bad.
That's a whole thing.
Bob was a character I didn't like after the first 2 or 3 episodes, but ended up really loving by the time he died. And I think the show was really strong at making you, of actually developing side characters that could have been sort of more idiots or people you didn't really like. And I think season 2, the best example of that is maybe with Steve, a character I didn't care for at all in season 1, but had just such an incredible season 2. And I actually like him now. In some ways, I like him more than Jonathan.
Yeah. Jonathan that's probably why, maybe.
Yeah. See, I was actually thinking, I always liked Steve, and I liked how at the end of the first season, even though there was clearly still some unfinished business between Jonathan and Nancy. The fact that he was with Nancy, he wasn't a villain like we originally when we think of especially the 80s archetype of the douchey villain boyfriend. He was okay. He had layers to him, and I thought he was cool by the end of it. The one who I really think was interesting this year in terms of developing the character was Paul Reiser as Dr. Owens, because you first see him and you see him as part of this giant, government conspiracy type thing that, you know, he's just a cog in that and he's just all devoted to the mission, but he's not. He has more interest in, you know, the well-being of Will, especially when Will's condition with the Upside Down goes beyond the pale. And I really thought that was very, very. I thought that was a very interesting choice on their part to actually take this type of character who at the beginning of the season you're like, okay, that's the bad guy, like Matthew Modine was last year, but really develop into this very sympathetic and in the end character that is instrumental to them being able to survive.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think with Steve, I liked him this season. Last season, I do feel like he was a bit mean to Jonathan though at times, and like that's saying something when
yeah, he was.
Yeah, when you have a guy who is like taking photos of your girlfriend undressing, you can then make yourself look like the douchebag in that situation. Like,
I know that from personal experience. So I mean, that's just
like I feel like Steve did a bad job in some interactions last year, but this year, great looking after the kids. And I really like where he left things with Nancy, where he's like, I get it, that's cool. And what a nice guy, Steve. And
yeah.
I feel like
I loved him as the babysitter when he was saying, look, I have been tasked with keeping you shitheads safe, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
He's great. I loved Steve. He's fantastic. And I feel like though Nancy's better with Jonathan. I feel like because of what they went through in their personality types from season 1, they're better together. But I think Steve's just as cool a guy, if not a better guy than Jonathan. And hopefully he finds someone one day. I'm sure you will, Steve.
I hope so.
Any last?
I also got to give a quick shout out to what's his name, Brett Gelman, who's a great stand-up comic who played what was the character's name? Murray Bowman, the conspiracy theorist guy.
Oh,
I think okay.
He was so good. He was so good. I thought he was so great. He brought such a great aspect to this, and I was kind of worried that, you know, after seeing him, because I recognized him from his stand-up when I saw him in the first episode, and I was like, oh, I wonder if we're going to see him again. And then we finally do, and he's just great throughout the whole thing and gets them to come up with the angle of how they're going to try to expose this kind of thing. He was so great.
I love that big idea that was like, no one's going to buy this. And then he's like, hey, maybe we just email a tape of it to everyone.
Yeah, that's so true.
Rob, any last thoughts?
Yeah, there's one thing about this season in particular that I really, really loved dearly. You know, the first season was nostalgic about the 80s generally, I think, and it had a few film references. This season was so nostalgic about 80s cinema in particular. So, like, for example, in episode 6, when you see all the little dots going with all like the big demodogs, it reminded me of Aliens. And then Aliens also, we also saw when Hopper and Eleven were going down the lift into the gate with their guns. It just reminded me of the end of Aliens when she's going down with fire around her. So there was a lot of Aliens references.
Paul Reiser in Aliens.
Correct.
Yeah.
So much Aliens. There was like Empire Strikes Back, where in episode 7, when 11 is kind of learning how to use the Force by moving the trolley, and then there was like the Exorcist in the finale when Will is like telling them to leave me alone, and you know then the thing comes out of his mouth. There's probably others as well that I can't think of right now.
Rob, I was able to pick up a keen eye at some Ghostbusters references. In the first 3 episodes with the Halloween costumes.
See?
And the thing they trap the dart in is actually from the Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah, well, there's so many. There's probably, someone should write an article about, there's probably tons of them, but that really excited me because I was looking out for them thinking, what will they come up with next? The Aliens one in particular just got me because having those demagogues running around the facility just reminded me of them being on the Nostromo. So I just thought it was a really, really cool
Would they let me write an article for Gold Derby? The 5 Ghostbusters references in Stranger Things you won't believe or something like that.
I loved when they were dressed as the Ghostbusters. I loved when Dustin and Lucas were arguing. I'm Venkman. No, I'm Venkman. No, you're supposed to be Ernie Hudson. Why?
Yeah. one of my favorite movies, Ghostbusters, or favorite comedies. So that's fantastic. My last two thoughts are, one is Hopper and Winona Ryder are so good at puzzles. How they were able to construct that whole map when pretty much every sheet they were holding had like the same, like it was just a tunnel, like with the same width.
That's ridiculous.
How they knew to be which ones were meant to go to which. I was very impressed with their ability. And last shout out, I think Max was a fantastic person, like character, to add to that group. That actress did so well. Yeah, she was fantastic. And I like that this season we had some more female characters in the show. Yeah. Not heaps, I guess her. But
yeah, she's great. Good addition. I'm glad she's in the show. Yeah.
Okay. There's Stranger Things chat. We talked about all its awards prospects. We talked about most of the storylines and big character moments of the season and what we thought of it. And you can follow Gold Derby. You can follow Stranger Things awards prospects at goldderby.com, where you can make your own predictions, join discussions in the forums, and all other things Stranger Things.
and this, everybody, is for Marcus Dixon.
Oh, you're going to win an Emmy just like Viola.
There we go. So have a good time, guys, and we will see you on the, the upside down or the right way up or the, goldderby.com. That's where to check us out.
We botched that one.